Good evening, respected members of Professional Skills Enrichment Committee of ICAI, distinguished chartered accountants joining us from across the country, and the honorable leadership present today. CA Jay Chaira ji, Chairman of PSEC, CA Abhay Chhajar ji, Vice Chairman of PSEC, Dr. Sambit Kumar Mishra ji, Secretary PSEC, and CA Millie Dev, moderator of today's session.
Hello, Manish sir. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing fine, sir. Shall we begin?
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. I, CA Millie Day, on behalf of Professional Skills Enrichment Committee ICI, welcome all the participants in today's webcast, High Stakes Negotiation Skills for CAs, Achieving Clarity, Consensus, and Confidence in Critical Discussions. I welcome to today's resource person, CA Manish Goyal, and others present over here. Now, to begin, I would like to introduce our speaker for today. CA Manish Goyal is a practicing chartered accountant and partner at AAG and Company, Chartered Accountants, New Delhi. He completed his LLB in 2019 from Allahabad State University and qualified as a chartered accountant in 2024. He possesses rich professional experience in statutory audits, internal audits, income tax, GST advisory, and also has practical exposure to the commodity markets, adding depth to his financial understanding. Manish has been a speaker at various income tax and GST seminars organized by government departments and professional bodies, where he shares practical experience based insights with participants. He is also deeply committed to student development. He regularly conducts career counseling sessions for class 10th and 12th students, guiding them on career paths, professional skills, and opportunities in commerce and finance. He expresses gratitude for being invited to speak on interpersonal skills and conflict management, a subject he believes is vital for CAs to excel beyond technical proficiency and thrive in today's professional landscape. We welcome you, Manish sir. Now, the virtual stage is all yours to begin with.
Thank you, Millie. I want to begin by expressing my heartfelt gratitude to the committee for giving me the opportunity to speak on a topic that sits at the very intersection of our professional journey and our day-to-day survival. High stakes negotiation for CAs. Now, before we dive into techniques and frameworks, let me acknowledge something we all secretly know. Negotiation is not a rare event for a chartered accountant. It's our daily cardio. We negotiate with clients, with teams, with bankers, with vendors, with tax officers, and sometimes even with the office printer that chooses the worst possible date to stop working. If you look at a CA's life, almost nothing important happens without a negotiation. But here's the twist. We were thoroughly trained to negotiate numbers, but we were not trained to negotiate people. And unfortunately, numbers behave far better than people. Numbers don't get offended. They don't raise their voice. They don't say, let's do it tomorrow. They even don't ask for discounts on your fees. Numbers don't walk into meetings with ego, emotion, or unrealistic expectations. But people do. And negotiation is about people. So today is not a session on financial negotiation. It's a session on human negotiation, the kind chartered accountants face every single day in boardrooms, in client offices, in tax hearings, and sometimes in their own office corridors. This is the negotiation where stakes are high, expectations are higher, and patience levels are often dangerously low. Now, let me start by stating a universal truth of our profession. Half of our work is technical. The other half is psychological. Think about it. Convincing a promoter to accept an audit qualification, that's not Companies Act. That's negotiation. Getting a client to disclose related party transactions honestly, that's not accounting standards. That's negotiation. Convincing management that internal controls are not optional. It's negotiation. Explaining to a CFO why the cash flow statement doesn't show cash flow of hopes and dreams. It's negotiation. And negotiating your professional fees, this is not a negotiation. That is a test of resilience. Every chartered accountant becomes a negotiator by habit, by necessity, and occasionally by drama. Yet, no one taught us negotiation as a structured skill. We learned Ind AS, we learned taxation, audit, we even survived ISCA. But ISCA used to be a subject, 10 years back. Nowadays, it's not in our curriculum, but those who are past members, they realize what ISCA is. But negotiation is a skill that defines how our work is perceived, accepted, implemented, appreciated, or rejected, but was never part of the curriculum. So think of today as your negotiation survival guide, crafted especially for the CA mindset. High stakes discussions, high pressure situations, high expectation clients, high impact outcomes. Now, let's begin. What makes negotiation high stakes for CAs? Before learning how to negotiate, we must clarify what we are negotiating. Because negotiation is not only when two people sit across a table with a formal agenda and meeting minutes. For a chartered accountant, high stakes negotiation includes any conversation where your reputation is on the line, money is on the line, compliance risk, relationship, even your sanity is on the line. Let me bring this to life with a few realistic examples from our daily CA reality. Take a scenario like negotiating with a promoter who thinks audit is a routine formality. You have identified a revenue recognition issue. You have documentation, standards, and calculations ready. You explain everything. The promoter listens and finally says, do we really need to adjust this? Can we just move ahead? Now here, this is a negotiation. You have professional independence. He has commercial pressure. Both of you have the responsibility to maintain integrity. That's high stakes. Second, negotiating budget expectation with the CFO. You present a realistic budget. The CFO studies it and says something like, this looks good. Can we increase revenue, decrease expenses, and improve EBITDA? All without changing anything else? At this point, you are not negotiating numbers. You are negotiating expectations. And expectations are always harder than numbers. Third, like negotiating a tax exposure with a over-optimistic client. You tell the client that this case is a weak, and client replies, let's appeal, we will manage. We will manage. And you are negotiating against optimism, denial, and magical thinking all at once. This requires emotional intelligence, not just tax knowledge. Same like negotiating deliverables with your own team. Your team member enthusiastically says, don't worry, sir, I will complete the audit file tonight. But next morning, to your surprise, he is like, sir, there was a system issue. Sir, confirmations didn't arrive. work papers were not synchronizing. I believe 31st March was next week, and all no. Again, here, negotiation. This one involves empathy and assertiveness. And the most important, like negotiating fees with a client who believes your service is like a mobile recharge plan. Client is like, why has the fee increased? And you have to justify it because your business has grown. But client says, but your work is the same, right? This is not a fee discussion. This is a battlefield. So yes, negotiation is everywhere in CS life. But beneath all, this situation lies a deeper truth. Most negotiation breakdowns are not due to lack of technical knowledge, but due to lack of communication alignment. And today, we are here to fix that. Shifting from fixing problems to framing possibilities. As a professional, we are trained to fix things. Give us mismatched numbers, we fix them. Give us poor controls, we fix them. Give us complex tax structure, we fix them. But negotiation is not about fixing. Negotiation is about framing. Framing the issue, framing the expectations, framing the emotions, and framing the solution space. Let me illustrate with a real life corporate story. A CFO was negotiating an ERP implementation contract. The vendor's price was much higher than expected. So the CFO entered the meeting room prepared with a full-blown argument. But his mentor told him, don't negotiate the price. Negotiate the reasoning behind the price. So instead of saying, your price is too high, he began with, could you walk me through how this quote was constructed? The vendor explained the cost components. Then the CFO asked, which components are mandatory and which are flexible? The vendor admitted that customization hours were flexible. And then the CFO asked, if we simplify our workflow, how much efficiency can we gain? Suddenly, the price dropped. The relationship improved. The implementation ran smoother. All because the CFO didn't attack the number. He unlocked clarity. He reframed the conversation from price negotiation to value co-creation negotiation. That is the CA negotiation mindset. We should have a mindset like enter with curiosity, not combat. Because negotiation fail in the first minute when we enter the room ready to defend or demand. Enter with curiosity. Curiosity reduces tension. Curiosity creates openness. Curiosity reveals what the other person truly wants. A shift from this cannot be done to help me understand why it is important to you. This can change the entire energy in the room. We should also never respond to emotion with logic. We shall respond to emotion with understanding. A classic mistake that a CA makes is like when a client who is emotionally stressed, he comes and says, this penalty could really affect us. And CA, we logically tells them like, actually, according to the law, blah, 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 this penalty has to be, this never works. Emotion cannot be dissolved with logic. Emotion dissolves when the other person feels understood, Once they feel understood, then they are open to logic. Third, frame the discussion before you enter the details. If you jump into numbers too soon, you lose control of the narrative. Always begin by framing what is your goal today? What is the outcome that works for both of us? What constraints do we need to acknowledge? How will we evaluate success? No, this sets the tone before the tension arrives. So there are 7 psychological forces that drive every negotiation. Many chartered accountants assume that negotiation is about data, logic, standards, and documentations. But in the real world, whether it's a boardroom, a client meeting, a tax hearing, or a fee discussion, the outcome is driven by psychology, not paperwork. So here are the 7 psychological forces that silently influence every negotiation you will ever face. First, need for certainty. Humans hate uncertainty. Clients hate uncertainty even more. Promoters hate uncertainty the most. Whenever you discuss risk, exposure, compliance gaps, audit issues, or tax positions, you are touching the raw nerve of the uncertainty. If you communicate uncertainty poorly, people panic. But if you communicate uncertainty well, people trust you. So the lesson here is you cannot eliminate uncertainty, but you can eliminate ambiguity. Ambiguity creates anxiety. Clarity creates confidence. So the CA's superpower is not knowing everything. It is communicating unknowns with structure and stability. Next, the need for control. Every stakeholder wants to feel in control, especially the senior management. In high stakes discussions, the biggest barrier is often not disagreement. It is the fear of losing control over the situation. The promoter wants control over the business. The CFO wants control over financials. The tax officer wants control over the hearing. Your junior wants control over their lunch break. When the people feel out of control, they resist. Lesson we need to gain is give people a sense of control before they need it. How? Use phrases like, here are 2 approaches we can take. Which do you prefer? Shall we explore the conservative option first or the aggressive one? Would you like a summary first, or should I walk you through the numbers? Even choosing between the 2 options creates an illusion of control, and that lowers resistance dramatically. Next, loss aversion. Loss aversion is one of the strongest human biases. People will work twice as hard to avoid a loss than to achieve a gain. So when we present issues, like you will save rupees 20 lakh in tax by doing this, it is less effective than saying you may lose 20 lakh if you don't address this now. This principle applies everywhere. In internal controls, it is like strengthening controls reduces the risk of fraud. versus without strengthening control, we may face a major exposure. In audit adjustment, adjusting will improve reporting accuracy versus not adjusting may create qualification risk. Here's a second framing, the loss framing. This triggers action, but use it ethically. We are CAs, not fear mongers. The ego factor. No, ego is invisible participant in most meetings. Ego can make a negotiation longer. Ego can make a simple decision complicated. Ego can make a rational person behave irrationally. Ego can turn a harmless audit remark into a personal attack. The moment someone's ego feels threatened, logic stops working. We must always remember, respect first, reasoning next. A CA must learn to disagree without making the other person feeling inferior. One of the best phrases to diffuse ego is, I completely understand why this approach seems attractive. Let me show you what happens to the numbers when we take it forward. You are not saying they are wrong. You are saying you make sense. Let's evaluate the bigger picture. Next, the status quo bias. People prefer the familiar, even when it's inefficient. Ever tried convincing a company to change its accounting ERP? Or to adopt a new internal control process? Or maybe to implement a reconciliations policy? Suddenly, the entire organization behaves like you are proposing a rocket launch. The familiar feels safe. The new feels risky. Show them that the change is an evaluation, not a disruption. Use phrases like, what we are suggesting is not a replacement. It's an improvement based on what already works. The brain relaxes when the changes feels incremental. The fairness principle. Like people want to feel that they are being treated fairly, even if they are the ones being unreasonable. No, this plays out heavily in fee negotiations, tax assessments, budget approvals, audit findings. If someone feels that a situation is unfair, they fight harder. You need to anchor your argument on fairness. Like, this fee reflects the increased scope and ensures we educate senior time. Or this adjustment ensures comparability with last year and fairness in reporting. Or this exposure arose because documentation was incomplete. Addressing it restores fairness. Fairness is a universal language. Use it. The emotional memory effect. People do not remember facts from negotiation. They remember how you made them feel during the negotiation. Did you make them feel safe? Did you make them feel respected? Did you make them feel stupid? Feel concerned? Feel empowered? The emotional fingerprint of a negotiation shapes the future trust. For chartered accountants, this is crucial. A client may forget your audit findings, but they will never forget how you delivered them. A CFO may forget the exact tax section you quoted, but will remember how confident you sounded. A promoter may forget the numbers from your presentation, but he will remember whether you protected the organization's interest. Therefore, in negotiation, emotional experience has more weightage than technical expertise. And when both align, that is leadership. CAs may not always be the loudest voice in a room. We may not be the most flamboyant speakers. We may not be the most dramatic presenters. But we have a secret weapon: structure. Structure brings clarity. It reduces stress. It directs attention and wins respect. And negotiation, especially high-stake negotiations, thrives on structure. Let's look at a simple but powerful structure CAs can use in any negotiation. Establish the purpose of the discussion. Most negotiations go off track because no one explicitly states the real purpose. Say something like, our goal today is to arrive at a solution that is compliant, practical, and aligned with the organization's priorities. This positions you as the facilitator of clarity, not the messenger of problems. Present the facts briefly and neutrally. Do not overwhelm the room with too many details upfront. Start with a simple, high-level, neutral summary. Short, clear, non-judgmental. Present implications, not just issues. People take actions not because they understand the issue, but because they feel the consequences. Instead of saying there is a control weakness in the inventory system, say like, this control weakness increases the risk of misstated stock values and could affect margin accuracy. The moment people see consequences, their brain switches to action mode. And always provide 2-3 solution options. Never enter a negotiation with only one solution. One solution is equal to pressure, but multiple solutions, it's a partnership. You are not there to have imposing something. You are empowering. And always align on next steps. This is where most CAs unintentionally weaken their negotiation. They present brilliantly and then leave the action undefined. Don't say, no, let me know what you think. In fact, quote like, shall we agree that we will finalize option A by Friday and I will prepare the revised working by for review? Specificity is leadership. Storytelling, that's the CA's new superpower in negotiation. CAs love numbers. Stakeholders love stories. Numbers inform, but stories influence. If you want people to take decisions, adopt controls, accept adjustments, approve budgets, or increase fees, you must learn to wrap your logic inside a story. Not fairy tales, business stories, operational stories, cause and effect stories, prevention stories, opportunity stories. Let me show you how storytelling transforms a negotiation. No, like audit example, we can take that audit issue without storytelling. There is a revenue recognition error due to incorrect cutoff, and adjustment required is 2.4 crores. Notice what happens in the room. Promoter stiffens, CFO becomes defensive, everyone prepares counter arguments because the statement is abrupt. It feels like an attack. But the same thing, audit issue with storytelling. Let me explain this with a quick example. Imagine a customer places an order on 28th March, but the goods actually ship on 2nd April. And if we record the revenue in March instead of April, our results of the year become overstated. This has happened in few cases due to pressure on the dispatch team. So our recommendation is a correction of 2.4 crores, ensuring the financials represent the true performance of the business. Look at the difference. The moment you tell a relatable operational story, defensiveness melts, understanding rises, commitment improves. Stories humanize numbers. Now, here are 10 common CA negotiation mistakes that we do. Chartered accountants, we are highly skilled, some of the smartest minds in the country. But when it comes to negotiation, we often fail, into predictable traps. Not because of lack of intelligence, but because we rely too much on logic and too little on strategy. Let's explore 10 classic CA mistakes we do. Leading with data. We CAs love data, we worship data. Some of us even dream of Excel formulas. But leading with data in a negotiation is like starting a movie from the middle. People get confused and defensive. Always start with context, then bring the numbers. Over-explaining to prove competence. We feel the need to be thorough, but thoroughness becomes counterproductive when it overwhelms the listener. In negotiation, the more you talk, the less you influence. Use the rule, say less, but make it sharper. Giving only one solution. If you propose only one solution, the other person feels concerned. Concerned people resist, not because they disagree, but because they want psychological freedom. Always offer 2-3 options. People support what they help choose. Arguing facts with someone who is emotional. Trying to calm an emotional person with a technical explanation is like trying to extinguish fire with the kerosene. Acknowledge emotion first, facts later. Taking positions personally. A promoter disagreeing with you is not rejecting you. He is protecting his interest. A tax officer challenging your interpretation is not attacking you. He is following his mandate. A CFO resisting your forecast is not undermining you. He is nervous about the board. Detach your ego. Attach yourself to the process. Jumping into details too quickly. CAs, we often drown people in details because we want to be transparent. But transparency becomes noise if it is not sequenced properly. Start high level, dive deeper only when invited. Not reading the room. Some rooms are logical, some rooms are political, some rooms are emotional, some rooms are sleepy, and some rooms are secretly hostile. And most CA negotiation failures happen because we don't adjust our communication style to the room. Pause, observe, and then speak. Becoming defensive when challenged. CAs are used to being right. So when someone questions us, we often push back too quickly. But negotiation is not a courtroom. It's a sandbox for ideas. Instead of defending, explore. No, you may take an example phrase like, that's an interesting angle. Let's examine it together. Ending without clear next steps. A brilliant presentation with a vague conclusion is like a GPS saying, you have reached somewhere near your destination. Good luck. Instead, end with clear steps, clear deadlines, clear responsibilities. This is true influence. And the last is like believing your job is to convince. Your job is not to convince. Your job is to enable the other person to arrive at the right conclusion. The best negotiators don't push, they guide. So you can master frameworks and still lose if you don't know how to handle personalities. Let's talk about some characters we all meet in CA life and how to negotiate with them. No names, but we all know who they are. The dominant promoter. My way is the only way. No, those ones. This promoter enters the room with a strong personality and strong opinions. They interrupt, they challenge, they dislike long explanations, they equate changing their mind with losing power. How to negotiate with them? No. Keep explanations short. Use business impact language, not technical. Give them choice. Dominant personalities love control. Frame issues as business risk, not accounting errors. The defensive CFOs. No. Why does audit always target my department? Those ones. This CFO takes every remark personally. They see issues as criticism. They see observations as blame. How to negotiate with these people? Use empathy first. No, I know your team is handling a heavy workload. Present issues as systematic, not personal. Offer solutions, not just observations. The over optimistic client, those like everything will work out. Let's not worry too much. Over optimistic. Their business is collapsing. Their compliance is weak, their tax exposure is huge, but they are chilled. How to negotiate with these people? Use consequence framing. If we don't act now, the cost later may be significantly higher. Use timelines, use scenario modeling. Optimists respond to structured reality. The low billing client. Why is the fee so high? You provide quality service, they provide emotional damage. Their negotiation strategy is simple: reduce the fee, or we will reduce eye contact. How to negotiate with these people? Never defend your fee. Explain the value, not the hours. Link the fee and responsibility. The bureaucratic officers, those on like procedure first, everything else later. This personality, no, these types of rules follow rules like religion. No, they follow rules like religion. How to negotiate with these people? Be extremely prepared. Have documents, circulars, negotiation, notifications. Maintain a calm tone. They dislike emotional arguments. The stressed founder, I need answers now. Startups are exciting, but founders are often exhausted and anxious. How to negotiate with these people? Speak in simple, actionable language. Provide clarity, not complexity. Become the calmest person in the room. Like, best phrase over here is the one decision you need to take now. I will handle the rest. They love decisive support. The client, the silent stakeholders, the most dangerous kind, because the silence hides disagreement. How to negotiate with these people? Invite opinions gently, ask open-ended questions, reconfirm alignment at every step. Silence is not agreement. Silence is a risk. Here are a few, advanced influence techniques for boardrooms. Negotiating in a boardroom is different from negotiating with individuals. There are no group dynamics, power hierarchies, political undercurrents, strategic agendas. But here are 5 techniques CS must master. Anchor the narrative early. If you don't define the theme of the discussion, someone else will. Use the problem solution benefit triangle. For every issue, there is a problem, like there is an inconsistency in revenue timing. Solution: we recommend a standard dispatch cutoff policy. And benefit: this will ensure accurate reporting and reduce audit queries. The board loves clarity and brevity. Next, speak in executive language. Our CS language: inventory valuation deviation detected due to unadjusted NRV. Whereas the executive language is: our stock is overstated because market prices have dropped. Executives don't want jargons. They want meaning. Visual summary: even one slide with 3 key risks, 3 solutions, 3 decisions required, makes you the most organized voice in the room. Board members loves clarity. Clarity earns power. Next, is the leadership tone. Never end passively. Don't say, let me know what you think. Instead, always say based on today's discussion, here is a recommended course of action. Leadership tone influences decisions. The CA negotiation toolbox. So here is a full toolbox of ready-to-use negotiation phrases crafted for the real CA situations. Simple, precise, powerful. When a client resists an audit adjustment, a weak version is, you must pass this entry. Standards say so. Whereas a power version is, let me walk you through the impact of not making this adjustment. This entry ensures your financials accurately reflect performance and reduce potential scrutiny later. Now, this shifts the tone from compliance enforcement to risk protection. Next, when you present bad news, before we dive into the details, I want to assure you that there are clear pathways to address this. Let me first explain what happened, and then we will discuss practical options available. This structure calms the room instantly. Third, when someone challenges your conclusion aggressively, that's a valuable perspective. Let's examine the numbers together and see how both views compare. This phrase disarms aggression without surrendering authority. When a promoter says, this has always worked, why change? What has worked so far has brought you here, and it has served the company well. But what we are suggesting now is to support your next phase of growth and reduce operational friction going forward. In this, here is a respect plus evaluation, which will turn up to acceptance. Next, when a CFO wants unrealistic projections, you may use, I am completely aligned with the aspiration. Let me show you what assumptions are required to achieve this. And then we can decide whether they can be realistic. This shifts the responsibility to the assumptions, not you. Next, when the team is missing deadlines, I want us to succeed together. Let's re-evaluate the workload and identify what's blocking progress so we can fix it without compromising quality. No blame, no emotional damage, just leadership. Next, when a client negotiates fees too aggressively, you may use phrase like, I want to deliver the level of assurance your business truly deserves. To allocate senior level time and ensure compliance, this is the appropriate fee. Professional, confident, non-apologetic. When a tax officer is rigid, I completely respect the department's viewpoint. May I walk you through the factual position and supporting documents so we can evaluate this matter comprehensively? Respect opens doors. Documentation closes the debate. Next, when a stakeholder keeps interrupting or overpowering the conversation, You may use the phrases like, I appreciate your enthusiasm. Let me complete this thought so we can evaluate the full picture. Polite, firm, effective. The last one. When the conversation is going nowhere, may I suggest that we take a step back, align on the objective, and then revisit the specifics? It might help us progress faster. This resets the room. Now, next comes negotiating under pressure. No, chartered accountants, we often face situations where the time is short, stakes are high, and emotions are, let's say, extra enthusiastic. The examples like board meeting in 10 minutes, tax hearing in 5 minutes, ERP implementation, chaos, no, and all. In pressure situations, the negotiation rules are tighter. Here are 5 principles you may use to win under pressure. First, slow your voice even if the room is fast. When tension rises, your calmness becomes a leadership signal. People instinctively follow the calmest voice in chaos. Use short sentences, not long explanations. Use crisp phrases like, here are the 3 key points. This is the most important number. Precision reduce panic. Make the decision tree visible. Pressure clouds judgment. Clarity restores it. Say like there are only 2 decisions to make right now, option A and option B. Suddenly the chaos shrinks. Don't match the room's energy. Control it. If someone is shouting, don't shout. If someone is panicking, don't panic. If someone is rushing, don't rush. Your stability becomes the anchor. When stakes feel overwhelming, zoom out. Say, let's take a 60-second pause and reassess the core issue. This single sentence saves careers. The tactical empathy. No, the FBI negotiation skill every CA must use. This is not a soft empathy, not emotional empathy. This is strategic, structured empathy used by hostage negotiators, used by crisis managers, and believe it or not, extremely effective for chartered accountants handling difficult stakeholders. What is tactical empathy? No, acknowledging the other person's perspective so accurately that they feel understood and therefore become open to your influence. Tactical empathy is not agreeing, it is simply saying, I hear you, I understand why you feel that way. Let's solve it together. The 3 parts of tactical empathy are label the emotion. No? It sounds like this issue has caused some friction. This lowers emotional resistance. Validate their worldview. You are trying to protect the business. That makes perfect sense. I understand why this feels disruptive for them. Validation builds trust. Guide the next step. Given that here is the safest approach, considering your concern, here is what protects you best. Now you have the influence. Why? Because you understand them. Why tactical empathy works so powerfully for CS? Because most stakeholders assume CAs are logical, technical, rigid, by the book. So when a CA displays empathy, people are pleasantly shocked. That surprise creates openness, and openness creates agreement. Humor, used wisely, is one of the most underestimated negotiation tools. Not jokes, not sarcasm, not stand-up comedy, but strategic lightness. A small humorous remark, it breaks tension, resets the room, humanizes you, builds rapport, increases likability, and CAs have endless opportunity for relatable humor. Let's explore the situation. When the room is tense, like, don't worry, I promise the next slide doesn't have any more numbers than your last blood test. This will result in laughter, lowered defenses. Or when someone challenges your conclusion, I appreciate the challenge. If everyone agreed with me instantly, I'd be suspicious. Humor plus confidence. Next, when presenting complex data, you need to add the humor. I'll keep this brief. Even when the Excel file was tired by the end of this analysis, the room relaxes here with these kinds of humors. So you can try these whenever you can. When people complain about documentation, or a promoter wants a shortcut, or when the team misses a deadline, humor creates oxygen in serious topics. Next, the negotiator's core mindset. Technical skills make you competent, but negotiation skills makes you influential. To become a powerful negotiator, a chartered accountant must adopt 5 core mindsets. I facilitate, I don't fight. Negotiation is not a war. No, it is not you versus promoter, you versus CFO, you versus tax officer, or you versus management. It is all of you versus the problem. When you shift from confrontation to collaboration, the room follows your energy. Use your tone, it becomes the atmosphere. You may use phrases like, let's solve this together. We are on the same side here. It will, completely change the atmosphere. Second, my value is not in speaking more, but in speaking better. A powerful negotiator speaks concisely, confidently, intentionally. A CA who speaks less but with clarity becomes a magnet of attention. Executives don't want 40 minutes of explanation. They want 4 minutes of insight. Third, I control the frame, not the force. You cannot control personalities. You cannot control emotions, but you can control the frame, how the issue is defined. The person who controls the frame controls the outcome. For example, if the issue is framed as should we make this adjustment or not, you will get resistance. But if you frame it as which approach protects the business and avoids future complications, now the answer is guided. Next, clarity is kindness. Many CS assume that softening the truth reduce conflict. Actually, it increases confusion. No, clarity is not harshness. Clarity is respect. So, what must be said with calmness, compassion, and logic? Silence is a tool. Most people fear silence. Negotiators use it as a weapon. And after presenting your point, stop talking. Silence forces reflection, responsibility, honesty, commitment. The one who is comfortable with silence controls the negotiation. Influence without authority. This is the CA's most valuable professional skills. Let's face it. Now, CAs often have responsibility without authority. We are expected to enforce compliance, ensure controls, raise red flags, push for adjustments, challenge assumptions, but we cannot command anyone. We must influence without power. Here are the 5 techniques that make this possible. Become the most prepared person in the room. Power doesn't come from designation, it comes from preparation. If you know the numbers, the logics, the consequences, scenarios, alternatives, you instantly become the intellectual anchor of the meeting. Use evidences, not emotions. People may disagree with your opinion. They cannot disagree with evidence. Use comparisons, data trend lines, real examples, industry benchmarks, case studies. Evidence is silent influence. Summarize better than anyone else. If you summarize clearly, people perceive you as a leader. For example, let me summarize our discussion so far in 3 points. This instantly positions you as the person holding the right room together. Ask the questions no one else is asking. Great negotiators don't give answers. They ask questions that reshape thinking. For example, what decision protects us best 6 months from now? What assumption here is the riskiest? What is the cost of delaying this decision? What outcome do we want the board to see? The person who asks strategic questions becomes the strategist. Become a calm presence during chaos. In every meeting, there is, someone emotional, impatient, confused, dominating. But if you remain calm, you become the pillar that everyone unconsciously relies on. Calmness is authority. Dealing with conflict and resistance. No. Conflict is not a sign of failure. Conflict is a sign of engagement. If nobody argues, nobody cares enough. But most CAs dislike conflict because we love order, logic, and clean trial balances. Unfortunately, most negotiations look like unreconciled ledgers. Now, here is a CA guide to managing these conflicts. Separate room from the problem. Separate people from the problem. Promoter is angry. CFO defensive. Client irritated. These are emotional reactions to pressure, not to you. Say, let's put emotions aside and focus on the issue. Never attack the person, attack the problem. Use neutral language, not accusatory language. Accusatory language is you didn't implement that control. But neutral language is the control has not been implemented yet. A small shift, but a big difference. Neutral language reduces defensive behavior instantly. Don't escalate volume, escalate structure. If someone speaks louder, you speak slower, clearer, tighter. You bring bullet points, concise points, documented facts, timelines. Structure the beats noise. Identify the real source of resistance. People rarely resist because of the reason they mention loud. Resistance usually comes from fear of blame, fear of change, extra work, exposure, losing power. Identify the invisible fear. Solve the visible resistance. Convert resistance into participation. Ask, what would make this solution workable for you? This transforms opponents into contributors. Next, the art of saying no, without damaging relationships. One of the hardest professional skills of a CA. Saying no without creating conflict. We face this constantly. Can we reduce the fee? Can we ignore this for now? Can we take a shortcut? Can we skip this documentation? Can we delay compliance? Here is how to say no with elegance, strength, and diplomacy. Say no by framing the risk. Instead of saying ki, no, we cannot do that. Try saying that approach increases the risk significantly. Here is the safer alternative. You reject the idea, not the person. Say no by citing principles, not personality. From an audit perspective, this needs to be corrected. From a compliance standpoint, we need supporting documents. From a risk standpoint, this must be addressed. Principles have no ego, but people do. Say no by offering alternatives. I can't support that option, but here are two ways we can move forward. A no combined with solutions becomes a constructive conversation. say no by delaying the decision. When the room is heated, let's say, no, let's pause this for now and revisit tomorrow with fresh perspective. Often the problem solves itself. Say no softly, but with irreversible finality. Like my recommendation remains the same. This position is not negotiable from a compliance perspective. This is the only defensive path. Soft tone, strong message. Now, how a CA ends a negotiation determines whether people take actions. Here are ready to use closing scripts for different situations. Closing a boardroom discussion. To summarize, the recommended approach ensures clarity, compliance, and long-term stability. With your approval, we will proceed with implementation and keep the board updated on progress. Confident, clear, executive. Closing a heated client meeting, you may try with I appreciate everyone's perspective based on the data and the implications. This is the safest and most reliable option. If you are aligned, we will move forward. Leadership tone, not emotional tone. Closing a tax negotiation. Thank you for your time. We trust that the evidence presented supports our position clearly. We request your favorable consideration. Professional and respectful. Closing a fee negotiation. We have committed to delivering professional excellence. This fee ensures the right level of expertise and attention to your work. If you are comfortable, we can proceed to the engagement terms. Elegant and firm. Closing a discussion within your own team. Great, let's move ahead. Let's share the updated status tomorrow and let me know if you need any support. Clarity plus leadership. The 10-step master framework. Everything we discussed across the last five parts now comes together into one seamless, powerful structure. This is your negotiation operating system. Your blueprint for navigating any difficult boardroom, any resilient client, any tax officer, any promoter, any CFO. Let's walk through it step by step. Define the purpose before speaking. Never start with the information. Start with the intention. For example, our goal today is to arrive at a decision that ensures compliance, protects the business, and supports future stability. Purpose creates direction. Direction creates authority. Step 2, establish psychological safety. Before presenting facts, make the people feel safe. For example, I want you to know that there are clear solutions available. Let's walk through them together. Safety reduces resistance. Safety increases listening. Present the issues neutrally. No drama, no blame, just clarity. For example, there are two areas that require alignment: revenue timing and inventory valuation. Neutrality builds trust. State why it matters, the implications. People act only when they understand the consequence. For example, uh, this could affect reported performance and invite scrutiny during review. Implications create urgency, not fear. Share evidence, not opinions. Evidence is your negotiation backbone. Data trends, exceptions, case references, documentations. Evidence speaks for you. Offer solutions, multiple solutions. Never trap people with a single path. For example, there are two ways to resolve this. Option A is conservative. Option B is flexible but requires stronger controls. Options is equal to empowerment. Invite participation. People support what they help shape. For example, if I'd love to hear your view on these two approaches, what works best from your perspective? Participation creates ownership. Ownership creates agreement. Step next, align and finalize the decision. Don't assume alignment. No, confirm it. For example, so we are aligned on option A and proceed accordingly. Confirmation eliminates ambiguity. Next, define next steps clearly. The first reason negotiation fails is unclear execution. Say, here are the next steps and will follow, and the timeline we will maintain. Execution clarity is negotiation maturity. And lastly, close with leadership tone. Never end weakly. Never end vaguely. End with strength. For example, I will oversee the implementation and ensure we stay aligned at each milestone. Leadership tone seals influence. This 10-step framework works because it reduces emotion, it increases structure, it clarifies responsibility, it positions you as a leader, it earns respect without aggression, it moves people from conflict to clarity. This is not just negotiation. This is executive communication powered by CA intelligence. Becoming a magnetic communicator beyond numbers, beyond logic, how CAs become unforgettable. Magnetic communication is not about speaking loudly. It's about speaking purposefully. Here are other traits of a magnetic communicator. They speak with certainty, not arrogance. Certainty comes from data, preparation, clarity, confidence. Certainty attracts trust. They simplify complexity. CAs, often deal with tax labyrinths, accounting standards, audit exceptions, control frameworks. A magnetic communicator converts complexity into clarity. For example, uh, think of this control as a seat belt. 95% of the time it feels unnecessary, but the one time you need it, it saves you. Analogies create instant understanding. Use strategic pauses. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is emphasis. A well-timed pause makes the room lean in. It signals confidence. Tell relatable stories, not the long ones. Short, sharp, meaningful ones. A 30-second story can shift a 30 minutes meeting. Choose impact over information. Anyone can talk for 10 minutes, but a magnetic communicator delivers something memorable in 10 seconds. For example, this one decision can save us more money than our last 100 emails combined. Impact wins attention. They bring emotional intelligence into technical discussions. Finance is emotional. Tax is emotional. Audit is emotional. Money is emotional. A magnetic communicator speaks to both the mind and the emotion. This dual layer influence creates followerships. Now, building lasting influence in an organization, how can we do? Negotiation is not a one-time event. Influence is a cumulative result. Here is how chartered accountants build influence that lasts beyond meetings. Deliver clarity consistently. When people know you bring clarity, they invite you earlier into discussions. They listen more. They trust more. Clarity is equal to reputation. Maintain calm even when the room is on fire. In every organization, the calmest person is the most trusted person. Calmness is a leadership superpower. Become the person who makes things easier. Executives, long problem solvers. People follow those who make burdens lighter, not heavier. If your presence brings clarity, relief, or structure, you gain influence. Build bridges across functions. CAs interact with the operations, procurements, sales, logistics, HR, IT, banks, auditors. Influence multiplies when relationships extend beyond your department. Let your work speak, but let your communication amplify it. Technical brilliance hidden behind poor communication is invisible brilliance. Influence needs voice. The hidden negotiation, that battles that CS fight. We often think negotiations are big, formal events, boardroom discussion, audit committee meeting, a tax hearing, budget approval. But the truth is, CS fight dozens of negotiation battles every week without even calling them negotiations. These are the subtle psychological ongoing negotiations that determine whether the client respects you, whether your team listens to you, whether deadlines are met, whether people tell you the truth, whether the organization actually follows your recommendation. Let's explore these hidden negotiation battlegrounds. First, the negotiation of time. When everyone thinks you have more than you do. A CS calendar is a negotiation puzzle. The client says, just a quick review. The CFO says, just a short call. The tax team says, just a small query. The promoter says, just 5 minutes. The bank says, just one statement. Everything is just. The article assistant says, just one doubt. Yet, our day feels like a never-ending cricket match with no drink breaks. The hidden negotiation here is protecting your time without damaging relationships. How to do it? Use boundary setting phrases like, I can do this today, but it will require adjusting tomorrow's schedule. Shall we prioritize? Or I can allocate 15 minutes now. If more is needed, we can continue later. Or I want to give this the attention it deserves. Can we review it at 4 p.m.? Time is the CS most precious asset. Unprotected time is like poor negotiation power. The negotiation of disclosure, when people tell you only what they want you to hear. One of the biggest invisible negotiations in a CA's life is getting full information. Clients often reveal information like it's a national security intelligence. Promoter is like, there is no related party transaction. 10 days later, actually one small one, no, for 7 crores. CFO, no, like no major provisioning issues. However, after the audit testing, some minor amount, around 1.9 crores. Team members, no. Sir, everything is complete. Translation, 40% is done, 30% is pending, 30% is currently lost in the folder structure and all. But why this happens? Fear of judgment, fear of consequences, fear of extra work, fear of confrontation. But we need to negotiate. No, we have to negotiate disclosure. Use psychological safety statements like, I want full visibility so we can protect the organization, not to find faults. Or we're on the same side. The more I know, the better I can help you. Or whatever the situation is, we will deal with it together. These sentences reduces fear and increase truth. The negotiation of expectations, where misalignments creates chaos. Expectation gaps are the silent killers of CA client relationships. A client expects you to review everything, identify everything, fix everything, file everything, and to do it under friendly fees. Meanwhile, you expect timely information, proper documentation, cooperation, and professional respect. When expectations mismatch, friction begins. The negotiation you must master is align expectations at the start, not at the end. Use phrases like, uh, let's clearly define what falls within the scope and what falls outside. Or here is what you can expect from me, and here is what I will need from you. Or one quick alignment before we begin. This is not project planning. This is negotiation psychology at its finest. Next, the negotiation of responsibility. When everyone wants the CA to decide until they don't. This is the funniest one. When a decision is tough, sir, you tell us what to do. When the decision backfires, sir, why didn't you tell us to do this? Stakeholders often outsource responsibility to CAs, but retain the right to blame. The hidden negotiation here is never accept responsibility that belongs to someone else. Say, I will present options and implications, but the final call must be yours because you are the closest to the business decision. This will protect your independence, your ethics, your energy, your reputation. The negotiation of boundaries, the emotional one. CAs often become financial advisors, business advisors, therapist, crisis manager, punching bags, miracle worker. The hidden negotiation is learning to say, I understand the pressure, but this decision needs to stay within compliance boundaries. Boundaries make you respected. Lack of boundaries make you exploited. The negotiation of truth, when people hope you won't notice. Sometimes, people don't lie. They simply leave out chapters of the story. Like the client who forgot to mention the undisclosed loan, the unrecorded liability, stock valuation assumption, GST registration in another state. The truth is a negotiation that requires empathy, patience, strategic questioning. Always ask, what is the one thing you think might affect this outcome that we haven't discussed yet? This question surfaces hidden risk like magic. The negotiation of quality versus speed. Every client wants high quality work delivered fast without increasing fee. Quality takes time. Speed reduces quality, but clients want both. The negotiation here is, would you prefer speed or depth for this task? Both are possible, but each has different implications. This shifts responsibility back to them. The negotiation of emotions, the most invisible one. People rarely say, I am scared, I am stressed, I am under pressure, I am overwhelmed. Instead, they say, no need for this adjustment. This penalty is unfair. Why is this taking so long? Why is audit always targeting me? The negotiation is not with their words, it is with their emotions. Try saying, using phrases. It seems the issue has created a lot of pressure. Let's break it down together. You are negotiating emotion first, issue second. The negotiation of priorities when everything is important. Clients, they love saying everything is urgent, but urgent is a lie. Only timelines are urgent. Priorities rarely are. So the negotiation is helping stakeholders choose what matters now versus later. You may use phrases like, let's rank these in terms of business impact so we can allocate effort effectively. Now you are not just negotiating, you are leading. The negotiation of respect. Respect is seldom verbal. It shows up in how they listen to you, how they respond to your emails, whether they involve you early, whether they value your time, and whether they follow your guidance. You negotiate respect every day through competence, clarity, calmness, and consistency. Respect must be earned continuously, and you are always in that negotiation. Cross-cultural and cross-generational negotiation for CAs, because not everyone negotiates the same way. India is not one country. India is many cultures, many communication styles, many preferences, all wrapped into one. Understanding these differences makes you a smarter, sharper negotiator. Let's explore negotiating with traditional promoters. These are common in North and West India. Now here the traits are like they have high ego, top-down communication, emotional decision making, dislike excessive detail, value loyalty, not logic, want quick answers, often say, I know my business better. Now, how to negotiate with these? You need to be concise, use business logic, link decisions to long-term vision, give limited time, give limited but strong options, respect their hierarchy, avoid lecturing. You may use phrases like, what you have built is remarkable. This suggestion will help protect that foundation. Negotiating with South Indian leaders, their traits are they are structured, formal, detailed oriented, logical, process driven, polite but firm. Now, how to negotiate with them? Always you can try with bring documentation, bring clarity, bring discipline, show preparation, avoid exaggeration, and respect their time. You can use phrases like, I have structured the findings into 3 clear buckets for your review. Negotiating with Western India finance teams, they are like fast-paced, KPI-driven, pragmatic, commercial, numbers-focused. Now, to negotiate with them, we really need to quantify everywhere. We need to be practical, show commercial impact, and we have to be crisp. For example, you may use like, here is the financial impact of each option from most conservative to most aggressive. Negotiating with Eastern region promoters, their traits are like, they are relationship centric, they prefer long discussions, emotionally layered decision making, they are having slower pace, risk averse. So to negotiate with them, you have to build rapport first. No, don't rush. Explain calmly. Explain. You should emphasize trust. Connect decisions to family or business legacy. Use example phrases like, this approach protects the business reputation, something your family has built over decades. And nowadays, negotiating with the Genjis team members. These Genjis, they are like direct, informal, tech savvy, impatient, transparent, purpose driven. So to tackle with them, you should negotiate, like, explain why, not just what. Give them the autonomy. Avoid micromanagement with them. No, value their ideas. Provide clarity without rigidity. Like, here is the outcome we need. Feel free to use any tool or approach you prefer. Now, next comes negotiating with managerial managers. Now, they are like a balance of logic and emotion. They are experience driven. They prefer collaboration. They crave acknowledgement, and they also value work-life balance. So to have negotiation with them, you can like give the visibility to them, show appreciation to them, discuss growth paths, explain decision-making logics, collaborate on solutions. This would really help. Then comes the Generation X, negotiating with the senior executives. Those are people, they are practical, structured, no nonsense, respect experience, they avoid uncertainty. To negotiate with them, you have to be well prepared. Speak with confidence. Focus on outcomes. You should always avoid fluff. Respect hierarchy. You can use the phrase like, here are the 3 decisions that will give maximum impact. Now comes negotiation in crisis situation. When emotions are high and stakes are high, margins for error are low. In normal meetings, people may listen. In crisis meeting, people react. Crisis brings panic, blame, fear, misinformation, denial, pressure, urgency. But a chartered accountant, becomes not just a financial advisor, but a stabilizer. a counselor, and decision-making anchor. Here are the 5 crisis scenarios and how CAs should negotiate through them. First, negotiating during fraud detections. The moment you say we found a suspicious transaction, you can feel the temperature of the room rise. Typical reactions like, who did this? Are you sure? Don't jump to conclusions. Keep this confidential. This will damage the company's reputation. Handle this quietly. Everyone is panicked because fraud is not just a financial issue, it's a reputational earthquake. So your negotiation goals should be to stabilize the room, prevent blame games, keep the tone factual, not emotional, guide stakeholders towards constructive actions, protect independence, maintain confidentiality. Next comes negotiating during cash flow collapse. When the company is short on cash, negotiation becomes survival. You present the cash flow numbers, everyone realizes that payroll is at risk, vendors are screaming, banks are pressuring, collections have stopped. Suddenly, the CA becomes the lightning rod of everyone's anxiety. The typical reaction, which comes like sales blames finance, finance blames customers, promoters blames the company, everyone blames destiny. Your negotiation role here is prioritization, rationalization, tough conversations, honest forecasting, and emotional containment. The CA becomes the architect of rational decision making. Next, the negotiation during due diligence. Due diligence is like cleaning the house before guests arrive, except the guests are auditors, lawyers, bankers, investors. The stress level, skyrocket. Management becomes hyper defensive. Documents go missing mysteriously. Assumptions suddenly become optimistic fiction. Here, your negotiation role comes like to reduce the fear, clarify expectations, to maintain the coordination within the teams, and managing unrealistic demands, protecting your own credibility. Next comes negotiating during a regulatory notice or investigation. Nothing creates panic like a government letter with bold heading, tax notice, SEBI notice, MCA query, GST scrutiny. Any regulatory letter can turn a normal meeting into a emotional battlefield. Client, they react like, why us? Why? What triggered this? How serious is this? What will happen now? Your job is to contain panic, decode the notice, communicate realism, prevent blame, and map the next steps. Next comes negotiating during mergers and acquisition chaos. Merger negotiations are half finance, half psychology, half chaos. Yes, that makes 150. That's how it feels during M&A. Valuation disagreements, due diligence findings, integration fears, culture clashes, legacy or loyalties. Every person protects their turf. But your negotiation roles is to be a mediator, translator of financial reality. You shall be a reconciler of expectations and protector of long-term interests. Next comes the science of persuasion for CAs. Most people believe that they make decisions using logic. Behavioral economics say no. They make decisions using psychology. Then they use logic to justify it. Here are the top persuasion principles CA must master. First, anchoring. The first number people hear becomes the reference point. Next, framing. How you frame your message determines how people react. Reciprocity. If you give something first, respect, clarity, help, flexibility, understanding, people feel obligated to reciprocate. Social proof. People, generally follow the what similar people have done in the past. Commitment and consistency. People want to stay consistent with their previous statements. Authority bias. When you speak with expertise, people listen faster. CAs, naturally command authority if they communicate clearly, confidently, and calmly. Sorry. In the last is scarcity. People take actions when opportunities feel limited. Next comes the ultra advanced negotiation techniques for CAs. The yes letter technique. You get people saying yes to small things, so they are psychologically primed to say yes to big things. The no oriented question. People feel safer saying no than yes. The contradiction diffuser, when someone says something completely unreasonable, instead of resisting, say that's one way to look at it. The invisible agenda revealer. When you feel someone isn't telling the real reason behind their resistance, ask, what's the biggest concern you haven't mentioned yet? The strategic concession method. Give small concessions to win the big one. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow chartered accountants, leaders of our profession, as we close this journey into high stakes negotiation, I invite you to imagine the following. Every conversation you enter, every meeting you attend, every client you guide, every board you advise is a moment where your voice can change the direction of a business. Negotiation is not a skill for the few. It is the responsibility of the many, especially for us, the guardians of trust, the architects of clarity, the interpreters of complexity. We are trained to analyze numbers, but today's world demands that we also analyze people, emotions, motivations, and fears. We must not only speak the language of accounting, but also the language of influence. We must not only present facts, but present them with meaning. We must not only lead processes, but lead minds. Negotiating negotiation is where your technical expertise meets your human intelligence, and when those two merge, you become unstoppable. Because negotiation is not pressure, negotiation is leadership. It's not loudness, but clarity. Every time you negotiate, you are not fighting the other person, you are guiding them, protecting them, supporting them. A great negotiator is not one who wins. A great negotiator is one who creates winners. People who feel stronger, safer, and clearer because they spoke to you. That is the power of a chartered accountant. We do not negotiate to win arguments. We negotiate to build organization. And so I leave you with this. Whenever you speak, speak with purpose. Whenever you advise, advise with clarity. Whenever you lead, lead with calmness. Whenever you negotiate, negotiate with dignity. You are not just a CA, you are a negotiator, a communicator, a strategist, a leader. Carry that power with pride and let every negotiation you enter become a moment of clarity, a moment of confidence, a moment of consensus, and a moment of transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow chartered accountants, as we reach the conclusion of today's session, I want to leave you with one thought, a thought that defines the next evolution of our profession. In the modern world, knowledge creates competence, but communication creates impact. We live in a time where businesses are changing faster than ever. New technologies, new compliances, new expectations, new risks. And through all of this, one thing remains constant. People look to chartered accountants not just for answers, but for clarity, for alignment, stability, leadership. It isn't about overpowering the room. Negotiation is about guiding people toward the truth with clarity, with confidence, and with compassion. So as you go back to your firms, your companies, your teams, your clients, remember this: you are not just an accountant, you are a communicator, a strategist, a negotiator, a leader. Your voice has power, your clarity has power, your calmness has power, your structure has power, and most importantly, your presence has power. Use it, because when a chartered accountant speaks with confidence and compassion, the room listens, the room aligns, the room transforms. And that is the true magic of our profession. That is it for the today's session. And with this, I would like to
Conclude the session, sir.
Yes, Millie.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Let me check if we have any questions. So no questions yet received. Can we conclude the session if you allow?
Sure.
Sure. Thanks a lot, sir. It has been such an honor to be a part of this wonderful webcast on high stakes negotiation skills for CAs, achieving clarity, consensus, and confidence in critical discussions, organized by the Professional Skills Enrichment Committee ICI. On behalf of the PSEC Committee ICI, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, CA Manish Goyal, for his enlightening session. A wide round of applause and thanks to the organizers, PSEC ICI, our today's speakers, C. Manish Goyal, and other stakeholders who made this webcast a memorable one. Finally, we would like to thank all of you present here and helping us make this webcast a grand success. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, PSEC of ICI. Thank you, Chairman Sir, Chair Chalaji. Thank you, Vice Chairman Sir, CA Abhay Chajarji. Our Secretary, Dr. Sambit Kumar Mishra ji, and thank you, CA Emily. Thanks to every chartered accountant and those who are present here today. Thank you.
Thank you.